Okay, everything is good. Mr. Cowell, the meeting's yours. Okay, Rick, the meeting is yours.
Looks like we lost Rick.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm still here.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
yes, everything's a go.
Good. Okay, thank you everyone for tonight's special board meeting, October 20th, 2020, 6:30 p.m. This is an electronic meeting. And we are operating this meeting held electronically as authorized under the Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976 as amended. Members of the body and memberly as allowed. With that being said, I would like to call the meeting to order, and I would like to have the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Liz Smith,
Here,
Andrea Voorhees,
Present.
Mike Powell,
Here.
Scott Ruggles.
Here.
Mr. Roman,
Here.
Mr. Lilly's here, Mr. Cowell.
Here. I'd like to have a motion for the approval of the agenda as noted. Mr. Lilly,
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
looking for support.
support,
I have support from trustee Liz Smith. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
I am a yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Next item is public comment. At this time, if anyone in the public, how do I get that? Public has anything to say, you can hit the *9 on your phone and that will raise your hand. This is any item that you would care to talk about. Rob, I will turn this over to you for a moment.
There are no phone callers on the line right now. No members of the public are here as of now.
Okay, that being said, we will move on. I have closed public comment. We'll move on to item 6, closed session. I would like to have approval to recess into closed session to consider attorney-client privilege communications in accordance with MCL 15.268H. I'm making that in the form of a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Lilly. Roll call vote, please.
Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. We are now going to go into executive session. Any of you members that are of the board that are appropriate to be in executive session shall do so at this time. Any of the other individuals, I ask at this time to bow out. Rob, you know who's supposed to be here, correct?
Yes. Yep, I've got 10 people slated to go into the breakout room here. It's called closed session. I will open up that room right now.
Well, Rick,
Yes.
are you not, I mean, Sean and Dan and Nick, they're involved in some of these matters. Are you not having them join the closed session?
Yeah, you said 10 people, right?
Yeah, there's 10 people. Yeah, I think they're involved in it, yeah.
Okay. And Mike, are you having Mike Lufkin?
I don't believe Mike Lufkin is involved in any of these specific.
Okay. Okay.
Terry, have you gotten the message to join the breakout room? There should be a button on your screen. Good. Everyone else, if you want to turn your video off until the main meeting starts. Rick, one question. Do we know who Michael Fernari is? Is he on the agenda tonight?
I believe.
Yes, he is.
Okay, I will let him in.
Okay, before we go any further, I would like to officially close our meeting. And you want me to make another motion again, Lisa, in this session? You're on mute, Lisa.
Yes, you're still in the special board meeting, so you should
We will do.
adjourn. Yeah.
At this moment in time, I'd like to make a motion to close the special session.
Support.
I have support from Mike Roman. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Lilly, roll call vote. You're on.
Jerry, you're muted.
Muted, Terry.
I'm sorry about that, Liz. Andrea?
Andrew's muted.
Mike Powell?
Try that again, Terry.
Yes.
I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hey, Mike Powell? Sorry.
Yes.
Scott Ruggles?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Kowal?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I would like at this time at 7:06 PM to call the regular board meeting of October 20th, 2020 to order. This is an electronic meeting. An electronic meeting is being held electronically as authorized under the Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976 as amended. Members of the public body and members of the public may participate electronically as we have provided for. At this moment in time, I will call the meeting to order and I would have the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of
of the United States of America
and
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Liz Smith?
Here,
Andrea Voorhees?
Here.
Mike Powell?
Here.
Scott Ruggles?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
here.
Mr. Lilly is here. Mr. Kowal?
Here, thank you. Looking for a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Lilly.
Go ahead if Scott wants to make the motion.
Oh, you
Scott?
go ahead, Terry. Sorry, go ahead. I forgot that's your motion.
Okay. Terry
Yes,
makes the
thank you.
motion, looking for support. Mr. Ruggles, will you support that?
Mr. Kowal?
Yes, sir.
I didn't get to finish the motion there. I'd like to add item 11F to the agenda tonight, the Huron Valley School issue. And also part of that Huron Valley School is the DLZ contractual obligation along with that. And also remove item 8A from the agenda.
And 8C. 9C, I'm sorry.
You're removing the budget?
That's the public hearing on it. We already had the public hearing. So now we're gonna do under the Appropriations Act.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Ruggles, do you care to support that?
Support.
Okay, motion support, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Powell,
Who'd you say?
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes, Jerry.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal?
Yes. Yes. Okay, motion carries. At this time, we will have public comment. If anyone has anything to say, you'll hit the *9 on your menu. That will do raise your hand, and you will have to identify yourself for the record. I will turn this over to Rob for the moment. Rob?
All right, we have a couple phone callers here. Let's see if anybody raises their hand. Reminder, press *9 to raise your hand to address the board. *9. We'll give it a moment.
Mhm.
No one has raised their hand yet. We'll give it just another moment. No one has raised their hand at this point.
At this time, I will close public comment when we move on to item 6, consent agenda. Mr. Lilly,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion looking for support.
Support.
A support from Mr. Powell. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Yes, and seeing as that is now passed, I would like to send a thank you out to Mr. Ron Stevens, who is our police chief for many, was reappointed to the Civil Service Commission. He's had quite a time with us, and he's agreed to go from 2021 through 2026. So he will be around for a little bit longer. So I certainly appreciate that. And I know the board does too. Thank you,
Yes.
Ron. Next item, 7A, B, C, and D. I would like to group them together if that's possible for approval of the minutes we've before. Mr. Powell, I'll get you right there in 1 second.
Before you do, I have
Yeah.
one little note.
Yes.
On the very first, the September 15th, 2020, everything else looked good, but I believe at the top of that, it should identify that it was a Zoom meeting as well, and it does not. And Rick froze again. There he is.
Okay, I could barely hear you, Mike, unfortunately. So,
Yes,
listen.
in the very first introduction, it says Supervisor Colwell called the meeting to order at 6:15. I believe that sentence should be amended to include that it was a Zoom meeting, I believe. Rick's freezing up on us.
Anybody else having problems with their screen?
Just with Rick.
I'm having a lot of problems with my screen flashing out off and on.
I did too, Terry. I'm okay at the moment, but
Everything looks good from the control standpoint here.
Okay.
Hoping we can get Rick back here.
Looks like we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him. He's gonna have to log back in.
Dealing with a black screen on my end.
Jerry, we can see you.
That part about computers, you can see me, but I can't see you.
we can see you and hear you okay, though.
Okay,
Did everyone hear my suggestion, and should it be in the minutes?
I heard it, Mike.
Mike, did you put that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I will approve. I make a motion to approve all of the minutes, A, B, C, and D, with just the modification that minutes A of September 15th be added, be shown to be Zoom meeting.
Okay, I'll support that.
Who
Are you
takes
guys
over?
appointing a temporary chair?
Yeah, who takes over if? the
Terry
chair-
does.
Jerry,
Terry does.
We'll go ahead and, we have a motion and support on that. We'll go ahead with roll call. Liz,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
I vote yes.
Scott Ruggles. Yes. Mike Roman,
I vote yes as well.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal is still off. I guess Rick wanted to take care of the presentation part of that. I guess we could do that.
We canceled that, though.
Yeah. I think, not the Oakland County Parks presentation.
Oh, yeah.
That was A that I believe that he wanted.
Right, the
wasn't it?
Boy Scout was rescheduled for next month, I think.
Yes.
Gary, I'm happy to introduce Mike Donlin from the county parks if you want to move into 8B.
Why don't you go ahead and do that while Rick's trying to get tied back in?
Okay, Mike Donlin, who is chief of maintenance, and Mike can introduce himself when he comes on, has been kind of going on a tour presenting information on the county parks millage around to municipalities around the county. And so tonight he is going to go through, I think, a slideshow and share his screen and just provide some facts on the ballot proposal for everyone to, I guess, receive and ask questions on and have discussion on if you so desire.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for fellow board members. I'm Mike Donlin, as Sean said. I'm Chief of Park Facilities Maintenance and Development. I also have with us tonight too my cohort in arms, Tom Hughes. He is our Chief of Park Operations for the South District. And one of his parks that he oversees and manages is White Lake Oaks. So in your township there. So Tom's with us tonight as well, and I'm going to be doing the majority of the speaking, but he's going to chime in where needed and maybe be able to help answer some operational questions with regards to our parks. As Sean said, we're here tonight just to create awareness of the millage, present some facts about what the voters are going to be asked on November 3rd, or have been asked in some cases, because we've had a lot of absentee millage votes turned in already. But this is just an awareness to kind of go through that. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. With the absence of Mr. Lilly, I think he's still.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Again, this is our 2020 millage. Every 10 years we go and before the voters, it's kind of our report card for the Oakland County Parks and gain a millage approval. Just some refreshers, as you probably are aware of, Oakland County has many lakes, many different recreational opportunities within the county. We also have 4 levels of recreational park systems in the county, from state, metro parks, county, and then of course local villages, cities, and townships. Oakland County Parks in particular, we have 14 parks in our system. With the newest addition that we had is a joint partnership with the Michigan DNR called Holly Oaks, and it's the ORV park out by Mount Holly in Holly Township and Groveland Township. We comprise nearly 7,000 acres, and we see up until COVID, we've seen up to 2 million visitors a year for our various facilities, which are listed on the screen there. Our recreational outreach, through Recreation Program Services, we provide recreational outreach in nature center programs. That's our mobile rec stages, things along that lines that we offer communities and local and partner with communities to use those stages. It's called our Recreational Assistance Partnership Program. So we reach 1.9 million people there. This is all managed by 75 full-time staff and about 700 part-time seasonal staff that come into our parks when we're at full operations. And also you can't go without mentioning our volunteers that provide a tremendous help to our park system, from golf to programs to campgrounds and things like that. Over the past 10 years, there's some projects that we've been working on in the park system, and there's a list of them here. But a majority of our projects have been focused in on our maintenance of our existing facilities. And I'll get into a little bit later about that. If you look, there's one project I just wanted to point out, because I'd also like to talk about it a little later. Normandy Oaks Partnership Project in Royal Oak. That's a partnership where Oakland County and Royal Oak Township, or City of Royal Oak, I'm sorry, partnered to create a nature preserve and trails down in Royal Oak. And I can speak a little bit more about that. Of course, I already mentioned our Holly Oaks and increased programs. Just a little historical perspective. Back in 1966, when the voters established our park system, we have one park, 190 acres, and a 0.25 millage. Currently, We have 14 parks, as I said earlier, nearly 7,000 acres, and we operate the system with less than 0.25 mils and, due to heavily rollbacks. And it's at 0.231 at this current date. Currently, after 54 years of operations, we have a lot of facilities that we are maintaining and taking care of. And some of the challenges we have is we have estimated around 20 million in deferred maintenance that we have to focus in on our park system. We have shrinking capital budgets because of the expenses that we have with these facilities. And we're continually dipping into our net position, or I like to say our savings account, just to balance our parks budget. And that's not a good practice. We try to keep it to a minimum. And, about 10 years ago, we had 96 full-time staff and we're down to 75. So we're really trying to manage our park system the best we can without dipping into our net position as much as we can. Every so often we go out and survey our residents, and this is to help us understand what we need to focus in on as a park system. And you can see that many of the tasks, the top things are, maintaining what we have. And that's been our focus. It's been my focus as chief to kind of, repair that roof, replace that window, door, pavements, and things like that. So really keeping things tip-top shape is what we've been focused on. And you can see the other top 10 things that folks are really looking for. I think it's November 3rd. I just noticed that date's a little different, but on November 3rd, we're asking the voters for a replacement millage. This replacement millage is requesting that we go from a 0.25 mils to a 0.35 mils. And there's some things I want to highlight with that. Yes, it's an increase in the mills, but this is going to help us with some of that deferred maintenance I mentioned earlier. Plus, there's some other things that we're hoping to do too. And I'll get into the next screen, I believe, is the what I was going to go into. Nope, I wanted to mention that we have on our county website, we have provided a digital toolkit, which I'll show you at the end of the presentation, a link to that will provide you all types of information, factual information for voting on November 3rd. And this is an example of one of our posters that you can download and present or put up at the township or other places. Just requesting get out and vote. With the replacement millage that we're requesting on November 3rd, this replacement millage is going to do a couple things. First off, we're going to be, instead of having, we're going to have free vehicle passes for seniors, veterans and active military, and persons with permanent disabilities. Currently, we do not do that. It's discounted rates for seniors. But we're going to be free vehicle passes for them. Really a neat thing that I'm kind of excited about is the grant program for local CVTs, city, villages, and townships for trails and local park improvements. Some of that money, that increase in the millage, will be dedicated to assisting our local partners in trails and those park improvements. We're also going to be increasing our RAP program, which is getting out there with our stages, mobile rec units in nature center. And another thing that really excites me, because I am by heart a landscape architect, is dedicated funding for invasive species within the county. And I don't know if I can't remember if White Lake Township participates in our countywide collaborative invasive species management areas unit, but this is a group that was established to address invasive species across jurisdictional boundaries. Plants don't know any boundaries, so and invasive species don't know any boundaries. So this group helps educate, outreach, and provide assistance with local city, villages, and townships, and even private partnerships and nature conservancies to help manage our invasive species. So it's going to provide a dedicated funding for that, or dedicated mechanism for funding that. That's pretty exciting from my perspective, since I oversee our Parks Natural Resources program. a lot of times we get asked, what does that mean for me? And I have a lot of friends that ask me this too. And this screen kind of says it all. What's it mean for out of pocket for an average resident or a resident that has a market value, a home that has a market value of $200,000? It's about $35 a year for the park system at the 0.35 mils. We're currently at 0.23, which would be equating to about $23 a year. So we're asking for about a $12 increase to help, with our deferred maintenance, with our initiatives and grant programs and things like that. So I think there's some exciting opportunities all around. And for $35 a year, I know I spend more at a restaurant. So this is just, I wanted to get this out so you understand what that value is for our constituents. Again, just remind everybody the vote on November 3rd. And this is one of our park signs that you might see out in the along roadways and roadsides. And on this page, you'll see at the bottom a website that provides a digital toolkit that has emails, facts, frequently asked questions. It has video testimonials on there. It has a lot of different things for factual information for the parks and what this millage means and what we're going after. So didn't let Tom speak at all, I can see. And, we're here to answer any questions you may have operationally or park-wide. Mr. Colwell, I appreciate you having us present tonight.
Is Rick back with us yet?
Yes, he is.
Great.
Mr. Powell.
Are we there
Mr.
now?
Supervisor, can I say something?
You certainly may, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now, and I wanted to thank Michael Donlan very much for the great presentation, and I'm thrilled that he's head of operations, maintenance, and development. And Michael, it's been a number of years since you and I have talked, and I appreciate where you are and where you've been, and thank you.
Yes, boss.
There's some connection there. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for presenting to the board tonight. I firmly believe that everyone here in this township, and I know all the board members do, put a value on the parks, in particular with our new park project that we have, initiative that we're launching. So we know the value, and I will tell you that individually, as my own person, I am supportive of the parks. Hopefully people will do the thing that will make them feel the best, and that's get outdoors and enjoy Oakland County. Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Michael.
You have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Well, I apologize to my board members. A little technical difficulty here. I'm not sure what it is. Whether it's a mouse running around the building or something, or the wind blowing the wrong way, whatever it may be. I certainly appreciate the continuance. I would like to go to the minutes unless I missed those. Did we or did we not, or we did just step over those?
We're all approved.
Those, Rick.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. That shows you what I know. Okay, moving on to item 9. Public hearing. We have a dangerous building show cause hearing for 1337 Park. And Nicholas, I'm going to kind of let you tell us a little bit about this building before we go into public hearing.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, board, for letting me come before you tonight. As you've probably seen in the memo I sent, we are recommending demolition of 1337 Park. This has been before the board. I think this is probably the 4th time at this point. Obviously there was that was supposed to come before us back in March, I believe, and because of COVID, that didn't happen. But in the past 7 months, we haven't heard from the owner. We have not heard from his representatives. We have not heard from the parties that were looking to purchase the property. And there's been very little work done on the property, just some cleaning up. But the property is in great disrepair. The home is completely uninhabitable, and you know, the home itself, if you've had the opportunity to see it, there is not really a structure left to that home. It is, the home itself sits on basically piers. It doesn't even have a foundation, and there's no running water. There's no sewer. There's no heat in the house. Everything would have to be updated to that property. That, in my opinion, it's beyond repair. So for that reason, like I said, we are bringing it before you for the approval for demolition. I do believe Mr. Hukana, the property owner, and possibly his attorney are on the phone. So if you'd like to speak, and if that is
yeah, we're here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you at this time. Just one moment, sir. Okay, Nick, anything else you want to add?
No, sir. I think that's it at this time.
Okay, Mr. Hudson, as the ordinance officer.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
You really should open the public hearing and have all of this discussion in the public hearing for the dangerous building.
We can do that if you like.
Please.
Okay, with that, I will make a motion to open the public hearing. I have support by Mr. Lilly, and that will go to a roll call vote.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrew Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yeah.
Mr. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Yes, and thank you, Nick, for that report. Mr. Hudson, could you comment on that particular site and the issues that you're having with it? A report of?
Yeah, I think Nick has covered pretty much everything that needs to be covered as far as the dangerous building, being an attractive nuisance to juveniles breaking into the building, and it's pretty secluded in the rear of the building, so no one would ever know if anyone had broken into and was in there for any length of time. Neighbors have continually complained about the home and its disrepair for, I'm going to say, at least 5 years since I've taken this position. So I think it's well past the time that to take these actions on it.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the board members at this time?
We're in public hearing, Rick.
Yep, I know. They can still talk in the public too. So, okay, I'm going to go to the building owner, and if he'd like to speak at this time, he can do so. And could you state your name for the record, sir?
John T. Hokana.
Okay, could you spell that last name, please?
Ready? Hookana.
Okay, and what has progressed or not since the last time we met?
Well, I had this guy from Home Investors named Terry L. Moak. Okay, we had the meeting and he came down and his partner came down. He was on the phone and you guys told him that he needs to put down a security bond or escrow or something for $15,000. And then, after that, he had some, I had 3 different days I called and he had, plumbers out giving estimates and heating guys giving estimates. And so he had everybody giving estimates. So I didn't hear from him for a while. And then I keep calling him and he doesn't return my call. I don't know if he got fired or something happened or he got cold feet. I don't know what happened. So I've been trying, that's why I had to talk to Paul to get out of this contract. And he said he didn't give any cash down or nothing. That's why he's dragging his feet. I wanted to get sold. This thing makes something here, recoup my tax for since 2008. I've been paying the taxes since my mother was disabled before she passed. So I was taking care of the property. I mean, renting it, but she was sick, so there's the issue with that too. But anyway, so we did, like I said, we had a process going. I was going to do the work myself, and then I got a quote from Rapid Drive to do the foundation work, put new piers in and all that stuff, and new beams, and then somebody, I think the guy who retired, I don't know, I forgot who it was. It's, I don't remember. I'm not good at names. Anyway, he said you have to have a contractor since I don't live in the house. So that put a kibosh on that. When that happened, I said, okay, I'm just have to sell it because I can't afford a contractor, and that's why I started going with home investors. I got a couple other companies been calling me, and I've been waiting to get this okay to go ahead and have them come out, look at it, and give me an estimate and buy it, so they, and they would just have to do the same thing. Home investors, Terry L. Moak and CK, put your bond down, and then I'm done. They just pay me off, and then they have their own escrow, and I can't. I'm a senior citizen, and I'm on fixed income, so I can't do this. That's why at one time I thought I could until I saw the numbers, and I had to go with the process of selling it. So that's what I want to do, so I recoup a little bit of money out of here.
Understood.
So that's what I'm right now. Like I said, and I've been I do a lot of due diligence. I've been doing things, to keep up with it, and these people don't come back with it. I had 3 or 4 contractors before I decided that it was going to be too expensive for me to handle. You can't get a loan on a house you don't live in. That's the issue. And so I had the house, so that was the issue. I couldn't come up with the money. So that's when I said, that's it. We're going to have to just sell it and have somebody else do it, like they did with Anderson's house next door. Of course, he lost it for taxes, but anyway, that guy did the same thing because they put bathrooms in that house, and it's pretty nice. I saw it. So that Slipper did a good job on that house.
The issue is that it's been sitting for an extended period of time and has continued to sit empty beyond the date of which we did give a tentative heads up to your investor to come forward. And
did you call him? He never called me. He was it's his responsibility to pay you the $15,000.
Yeah.
That's what he had agreed upon.
Yeah, it's not our responsibility to chase that deal, and unfortunately. But any other comment, the public?
If I knew that, I would have chased them myself.
Mr. Hukana, I have someone here that wants to say something. Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I would just, my comment on this is, I think the property owner has been made aware of the circumstance from the last board meeting. And so my position would be to listen to Nick Spencer and Jason Hudson and, enforce our ordinance and move forward with taking care of this dangerous situation, since he has been unable to, and I don't believe that he will be able to in the future.
Thank you. Any other board members at this time? Mr. Roman.
I just want to say to my fellow board members and to Mr. Hukana, this property is a danger to our residents. And you've had sufficient time to remedy the situation. I think your time's run out. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Any other board members at this time? Andrea Voorhees.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Roman. I feel bad because it's been an odd year, but yeah, this I've driven by is a safety hazard to our residents. So yeah, it needs to go, unfortunately.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else at this time? Mr. Powell.
I believe that, and certainly there might be the attorney for Mr. Hukana, but I believe the property is probably worth more without the structure on it than with the structure, so the owner will be able to recoup something. And as soon as you want a motion to close the public, I will be willing to do that, Mr. Supervisor.
Very good. Any other public comment at this time?
If anybody wants to address the board, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Paul, I think we have Paul on the line. He can press *6 to unmute himself.
Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's Paul Ponte. I'm attorney for John Hokana. And I just said that one of the struggles he's had is during the time that these purchase agreements have been entered into and the buyers are doing the due diligence, John Hokana is legally prevented from making major alterations to the structure. That's been our struggle with this last purchaser. And we finally sent this purchaser a letter a couple of weeks ago saying that we are unilaterally going to terminate this contract, even though we did not have that right to unilaterally end it. But we were at the end of our rope, not knowing what he wanted to do. So we sent this letter out saying you come up with the purchase price or the contract's terminated. So that's the struggle that Mr. Hokana has had. He's been very, very anxious to get this thing done, but his hands have been tied lawfully. He never dreamed this would be taking so long. And we're not arguing about the time issue, and the board's been extremely patient, which we appreciate. But that's been his struggle trying to get things done during his due diligence period. So I just understand that he's not ignoring this and very much wants to get it done as well.
I understand. Unfortunately, we run into scenarios where we run into structures that oftentimes can take more to put them back together than it's really worth putting into. And this one sits in kind of a precarious spot, but I believe there may be some solace that since there is its proximity to where it is within the township and the proximity to sewer, it may be a lot in itself that would have some value. I know there's been some other lots built on in that area that I was kind of surprised they built on, but nonetheless, they were able to. So there may be more value in just the dirt. But again, that's something that you have to look at. But in the meantime, I'm looking for any more public comment here. Rob, oh, excuse me, Liz Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I just want to know that I'm not looking at this, and I'm looking at this very compassionately. I do believe that he is, he's come to the board with sincerity. And I know that this is a hardship and he's a senior, and the board listened very patiently to him speak to us a couple times. So, I just want him to know as a resident that our board does care. We have listened, we have patiently tried. I am truly sorry that this is happening to you, but it is a danger in our community, and our board's been very patient and trying to get, we did give you a second chance. So I don't want you to think we're not compassionate. At least for me, I'm very compassionate about what's happening to you. I know the situation is not ideal for you, but it is a danger, and our board did give you an extension of time. And the time, we need to move on now. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. Okay, Rob, anyone else out there?
If any of the residents would like to speak on this, you can press *9 on your phone to raise your hand. Press *9 to raise your hand. We'll give it a moment. No one has raised their hand yet. Just another moment. Nobody is raising their hand.
Okay, I would this time, Mr. Powell?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I move to close the public hearing.
I have a motion to move to close the public hearing. Looking for support.
Andrea will support that.
I have support by Andrea Voorhees. Roll call vote, please.
Terry Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yeah.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Call.
Yes. At this time, public comment is now public hearing, excuse me, now closed. I would like to, at this time, Counselor, if you can hear me,
Yes.
turn your microphone on. Lisa? Okay. At this time, I would recommend to the board that we consider moving to solicit bids for demolition. If you concur, I would like to make sure that is on.
Well, so you are then affirming the decision of the dangerous building hearing officer of
Correct.
of whatever date that opinion was.
Yes.
So that's what your job today is, to either affirm, deny, or modify the order of the dangerous building hearing officer. And so
Moving forward, we are affirming. Yes. So, Mr. Powell,
I don't,
excuse me. Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm sorry. I don't know if you all have in front of you the dangerous building hearing officer's opinion. And if not, you might want to see what that order was before you decide whether you're going to affirm or modify it. And Nick, do you have that in front of you?
I have, yes, I have the proceedings and also the latest letter from the hearing officer, which was back in October of 2019. So it's been a full year since he has given his determination on this. I can read this to you if you'd like. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, or
his order, whatever he ordered be done to the property, because that's what the township board is considering.
Okay.
Whether they should deny, affirm, or modify that order.
Okay. This is his recommendation. I am providing this report to you in accordance with Chapter 8, Article 5, Section 109 of the White Lake Charter Township Code before the Township Board. In consideration of dangerous condition of this property, I urge the Township Board to continue proceedings outlined in the ordinance and take the necessary action to enforce demolition order.
That being said, Mr. Supervisor, I move to affirm the decision of the dangerous building hearing officer and continue the process of obtaining bids for the demolition of the structure at 1337 Park.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. We have a motion. We're looking for support. Mr. Roman, roll call vote, please.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Before I give my vote, I just wanted to affirm with Trustee Smith that the owner could have certainly done something in June and July and August and September, and it just seems like the action's only taken when he's back against the wall to the township, and eventually we become a laughingstock because we're too easy. So my vote is yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Lily votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Nick, proceed with your acquisition of demolition bids.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 9B, the public hearing for the reprogramming of fiscal year 2019 Community Development Block Grant Funds. As you all know, we're very fortunate that we participate in the block grant program, and we've done a lot of good for a lot of people here throughout our community. Last year, when we programmed some of the monies, we put some money aside towards the potentially new roof on the Dublin Senior Center. Trish has been overrun with requests for multiple projects, and we have some concern in our office that now that we are coming into winter, that we are going to see the typical furnace, hot water tank, and emergency things that are going to be real important things to people, real life changing and altering things if they don't have heat, if they don't have hot water and things of that nature. And therefore, we've kind of looked at things, and upon her suggestion, because she runs the program, that we would like to reprogram the monies. So with that being said, I am going to open public hearing on the reprogramming of community development block grant funds from the Township Roofing Project to the Minor Home Improvement Program. I'm making a motion to open, looking for support. I have support from Mr. Lilly. Roll call vote, please.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Okay, we are now in public comment. At this time, if anyone has any comment regarding our CBDG block grant funds that we use and the reprogramming of these monies into the minor home program, I would like to hear from them, in particular, anybody from the public. So Rob, is there anybody out there?
We don't have any phone callers at this point in the meeting.
All right. Any of the board members want to comment at all? Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I agree. I think it's a great idea, especially since I read that she's already exhausted her funds and she's turning people away. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a house without heat with a couple kids or something, that's for sure. So anyone else at this time? I can't see everybody. Andrea Voorhees?
Thank you. The senior center, excuse me, is aware of the changes that's going to happen.
Yeah, there's really no concern on their part. We've had a roof consultant go out there and we've got a good 3 years out of that roof yet.
Yep, I
So,
agree.
it was something that we thought we could do and try to move forward. But I think that the money is much better spent on the individuals that may need it. Therefore, but for the grace of God, go I.
Right.
No, absolutely. I just wanted to confirm that they were aware.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're aware of it. So, okay. Yes, Liz.
Just
Liz.
comment. I totally agree. I'm very happy that this is going directly to our residents in need. And so that's all, Mr. Supervisor. We already spoke about this, and I'm pleased that we're able to help as many residents as possible. I wish we had more to give, but I do think this is the best use of funds at this time. It's been such a hard year for so many.
It has been, and I will say that Trish is on the lookout for anything she can do extra for these folks. So that is something that this office takes and this township takes very seriously. Okay, any other comment from the board members? Okay, at this time, I will move to close the public hearing. I make a motion. Mr. Lilly is supporting. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes, thank you. So at this time, what I would like to do is I would like to make a motion. It's pretty simple, just to get the board's blessing to reprogram the monies from the roof to the minor home repair program. And I will make that in the form of a motion. Mr. Lilly is supporting. We have motion support. Roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, board members. And there was no doubt in my mind you would do this because I know that all of you are big-hearted and very generous when it comes to the folks in our community who may have a lesser means of livelihood or economics that they can't quite get where they need to get. So I certainly appreciate that. And I know Trish will, and hopefully we can help a few more people. And we will keep you posted on available funds for next year. We're not sure where that's all going right now with the current economic situation. Moving on to section 10, our resolutions. Resolution 20-035 is our 2021 General Appropriations Act, which is the approval of the budget. And I would like to thank all of my board members for their inquiries and calling me and the support that we've had in discussing some of the different budget things that we've done. We've managed to actually reduce the budget. And I think we're, going in the right direction and trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can because of the projects we have forthcoming and not knowing what the future holds. At this time, any comment? Mr. Lilly, you have a comment?
Thanks, Mr. Cowell. Before we actually get into the General Appropriations Act, I would like to back up for a moment and thank the board for their support of retaining Kathy as human resource person for the township. Along with that, I noticed going through the budget that you had placed her in the supervisor's budget, and I would ask the board to consider the fact that if human resource is going to be its own standalone department that I believe that the board supported before, that it would be appropriate to recognize Kathy as a department head, as well as providing her with their own budget. I am not questioning anything, Mr. Colwell, as far as your oversight of any of the departments, but you know, when we talk about the departments, and I'll use the accounting department as an example, that you know, even though that Elaine and Dawn are responsible to the clerk, provided a sense of a department head for Elaine to be part of those negotiations every month that we talk about, and have supported them, all of them, ordinance and everybody, with their own budget. So I'd ask the board moving forward if they would consider just moving the numbers around to provide Kathy with own budget, and has absolutely no effect on the budget, other than maybe there's some items as far as subscriptions and training and stuff that has not been part of you know, some real consideration on Kathy's support. But I think it's important to recognize her as a department head and not simply another employee of the township. So I'd ask the board's consideration to take that and hopefully to support that. Thank you.
Gary, was that in the form of the motion? You kind of just cut out at the end.
I would entertain that as a motion, and just in case anybody else wanted to have some discussion about it. Yes, I
would support your motion.
Okay, but before we, Mr. Roman did have his hand up, so he wants.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mr.
let
Roman?
me make sure I'm not muted. So just a suggestion, as an accountant, when you create a new department, what seems like a simple task is not always so simple. You know, Rick, if you're seriously thinking about creating a new department, HR, I would suggest you talk to Elaine and Dawn in accounting first, get their take on it. They're going to start having to create many new general ledger accounts. And I think it would be wise to first talk to them.
I appreciate that, Mike. This is not my brainchild. It is, I understand, and I've looked through the MTA, and the HR is the responsibility of the supervisor, and therefore will go through the supervisor's office. I respectfully appreciate Mr. Lilly's comment, but I decline to support it, and that position needs to be monitored closely. And I believe that we have the right person, but at this point in time, in its infancy and its launch, I prefer that it be held underneath the supervisor's office and within its budget. Liz Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So Mr. Lilly trailed off, and I missed a few of his words at the end, so I apologize. But could you explain to me, Mr. Supervisor, why you are so adamant about keeping it underneath in your budget? It was explained to me, and it's my understanding that it would just be the exact same amount, but it would just be under its own heading in the budget.
Well, HR falls underneath one of the duties of the supervisor's office, and that's pretty much one of the rules that is done. And that's why I want to try at this moment in time, while it's in its infancy, this is our first go around with an HR full person. Let's put it this way, it's going to be fully attentive to this need. And there may be some duties that they may be having to do underneath the supervisor's auspice. And therefore, I'm going to follow the MTA guidelines and put that and keep that underneath my office. That's all my comment. Mr. Paul?
I have
Go
one
ahead.
more suggestion. Bouncing off Mr. Roman, would it be possible or appropriate to possibly table this until next month so that we could get a little bit information from Elaine and Dawn and see what it entails to set that up? Then we might be able to make a more informed decision. Maybe it is too much to set it up, or maybe it is not.
Liz, I can guarantee you it's going to be a whole lot of work. It's going to create a lot of work for accounting by doing it, by creating its own department. Much simpler leaving it just the way we've got it right under the supervisor's department. Much simpler.
Mr. Powell.
Yes, I totally agree. Liz, just think about any department that we have in the township. We have a department head, and then we have 15, 20, 50 items underneath that department head. All of those line items would have to be created now for this department. And there are two things. Number one, I'm really thrilled that we created an HR position because she is just, Kathy is just first rate. And in our position now, I honestly believe not only belongs underneath supervisor, but supervisor then can count on her, much like Terry did in the clerk's office, to assist in that department as well. Terry did not set up that department head when she was under him. She worked in his office and was HR as well. And so I really think she's going to be a major asset to the supervisor's office as well.
And one other comment, I believe Kathy's going to be doing some other things for the supervisor. And if you all of a sudden move her wages to her own department, now you've got HR expenses that would really belong under the supervisor.
Okay.
So it really makes sense to leave it the way it is from an accounting standpoint.
So I'm glad to have this talk because it was explained to me a little differently. So thank you for sharing your input. I appreciate that. She will be physically moved and have some privacy for HR, which is necessary. But thank you. So if she stays under the supervisor's office, then nothing changes, correct? We're just going to leave it as is.
Correct.
It will be located physically in a different spot.
Well, you know, this
For
building.
privacy, I hope.
Oh, yeah. No, I invite you to come in and see what the space I created out of things.
I know we're all cramped for space, but I hope our employees are able to feel comfortable to have some privacy with HR.
Yep. I don't think there'll be a problem whatsoever. Actually, it works out to her benefit. I invite you to come in and take a peek at what we've done. So,
sounds good.
Okay. All right. That being said, is there any other comments on that?
Well, we have a motion on the floor, right?
Well, we did have a motion and Liz did support. Do you want to withdraw your support or the motion?
No, I think we should vote on it.
I'm comfortable withdrawing my support because I had some new information, enlightened information.
Okay.
It was explained to me a little differently.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have any support from any other board members?
Support.
Okay. We have motion and support. This would go for a vote. The vote would be to put the HR office and create its own department head. So if a yay would create its own department, a nay would keep it under the supervisor's office. Okay? Is that understood by everyone?
Would you repeat that again, Rick?
If you vote yes, it would create a separate department head. If you vote no, it would stay underneath the supervisor's office. Okay, we have motion and support. Roll call vote.
I have one last
Liz?
question. I have one last question. So, because I've never gone through the process of creating a department head, and maybe some of you have, so thank you for the information. Like next year, if this isn't working out, is that something that can be explored again? Right?
It can always be entertained, and as my comment was,
it would be like a regular budget amendment that we could entertain anytime later down the road.
I wouldn't say it necessarily would need to be a regular. It could be done at any time. But my point being is, my opening statement was, in its infancy, I would prefer that it be under the auspice, as it's directed, under the auspice of the supervisor's office. So things
but it could change perhaps if it need be later down the road.
Anything could change, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that, so. Okay, we have motion, we have support. A yay means that it would go in its own department. A nay means that it will stay under the supervisor's office. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
No,
Ray Voorhees,
No,
Mike Powell,
No,
Scott Ruggles,
No.
Mr. Roman,
No,
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
No. Okay, that motion has died, okay? Next item is the General Appropriations Act, which is part of this. If I would like to entertain at this time, if there are no questions from the board, I would like to entertain a motion to pass the budget. Mr. Powell?
let's let Terry do it, please. And I'll support.
Okay, Mr. Lilly?
I'll support the General Appropriations Act.
All right, so Mr. Lilly is making the motion and Mr. Powell is supporting.
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Ray Voorhees,
yes.
Liz Smith,
oops, I'm muted, excuse me. Yes,
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
yes,
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Thank you very much. Our budget has passed. The next item is 20-036, 2021 Township Board Salaries. Mr. Roman?
I'm doing salaries.
Yes, sir.
Do you want me to read the whole thing, Rick, or?
Well, I think it is that you made the statement earlier today that there's no increase in the salaries. Is that?
Yeah, there is no increase that I've seen. So I will motion to approve resolution 20-035, which are the township board salaries for 2021.
I believe.
It's actually 036.
Yeah, 036, Mike.
No, that's not what mine says.
well, I was hoping for clarification because I had a couple different answers when I tried to ask, is there an increase, is there not?
No.
No increase. So my resolution has 035. Do I need to change that?
But Mr. Lilly said yes, there is.
It must be listed wrong on the agenda then.
No, the agenda is right. The resolution's wrong.
He was referring to the agenda, the item number, not the wage increase, I believe. There's no wage increase.
Yeah, there's no wage increase on here.
Mr. Lilly, are you referring to the resolution number or the wage increase? Because when I have a budget before me that has a small wage increase in it. So I don't know if I got a different document. I just want to be clear.
Now, on budget I have shows that the salaries are status quo.
Yep.
Mr. Lilly?
There's a discrepancy, Rick, between the agenda that shows a resolution 036 board salaries and then the resolution 035.
General Appropriations Act was 035.
That was general appropriations.
Right.
Township board salaries is 036.
I'm just saying, if you look at the board salary,
we see it.
If you look at what's presented, it's 035. There is a discrepancy there.
Well, I will amend my motion to approve resolution 20-036, township board salaries.
That is correct. Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Which has no increase, correct?
Yep.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to be very clear that I'm looking at the correct document. So thank you for double checking.
Thank you, Liz.
Because you all know I'm going to vote no if there's an increase.
We have a motion looking for support.
Support, Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Ruggles had that.
Good.
Just on a squeak. We have motion and support. roll call vote, please.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes, with comment, at this time of COVID, would have voted no if there was an increase. I certainly would not feel comfortable while residents are struggling and giving ourselves a raise. So, yes to no raise with comment of I would not have voted for a raise. Thank you.
Agree with you on that, Liz.
Mr. Lilly?
Mr. Roman,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. Item 10C, Resolution 20-034. This is a very interesting little piece, and I hope some of you took the time to read this. This was an effort that was put forth by the OCATS, the Oakland County Township Supervisors Association, of which 21 of the supervisors that voted on this, it was unanimous to be in support of it, that would allow the support of legislation that would ultimately allow counties that have a population of greater than 1 million to regulate their own speed limits on gravel roads. This only puts a handful of counties throughout the state of Michigan in this position, which has caused this to be somewhat of an attractive piece of legislation for a lot of the rural areas that didn't want to be bothered with it. It is something that needs our support. I cannot begin to tell you the problems that we have here from policing standpoint, complaints, dust, take your pick. And it's quite the issue. So the hope here was to have our board pass this resolution. Then this resolution would be gathered with the pack of all of the other resolutions, along with a letter of petition from Sheriff Bouchard, and that would be taken by Sheriff and/or Chris Barnett, our president of OCATS, to Lansing to put before the legislatures to push them and put some pressure on them to enact this particular piece of legislation. Any questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
I did read this, and certainly I travel a great number of gravel roads, and I totally agree that 55 miles an hour, I can't even imagine a road that that speed limit should be traveled on. And I'm not a slow driver. On the flip side, I would not be in favor of a 25 mile an hour speed limit because we have to get someplace sometimes, and I'm not necessarily a slow driver either. So I like that in the whereas 45 mile per hour, and anything slower than that needs a formal study. So I like the way this is worded, Mr. Supervisor.
Yeah, it has some, hopefully has some safeguards in there that prevent just from a periodic area from just being targeted and unnecessarily restricted. Andrea Voorhees?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it needs to be lowered to 45. Unlike you, Mr. Powell, I think it should be less than 45. My car is absolutely always dirt colored, no matter what color car I get. And yes, I am a grandma driver. I'm, but still, I think 45 is still too fast. So I would even go like 35 to 40. I'm not going much lower than you, Mr. Powell, but I think it should be lower, but I'm just excited it's getting lowered to 45.
Yeah.
Well, this is hopefully going in the right direction. Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I agree totally. This is something that gets brought up to me all the time. It's something that I think is ridiculous that you can go 55 on a dirt road in a residential area.
Crazy.
With the horse riders, with the kids on bikes, with the people walking their dogs. It just destroys the beauty of that, and it makes it to where there's no safety for anybody. So I would be in favor for less than 45 too. So I love that wording that there could be a traffic study done. But I brought this up a number of times, and it's nice to see that maybe at some point in time it could be changed. I remember years ago in front of our farm there was a sign that said speed limit 25, and I wish it was still there. But maybe
I've had so many residents, I'm sure, bring this up to all of us, especially like the dirt of Pontiac Lake Road is a really dangerous spot. I think all of us have been approached by residents of concern of safety.
Yeah. Any other board members have any comment? No? Okay.
Mr. Roman.
Oh, I didn't see his hand. Mr. Roman, please.
I just want to say I agree with all of the trustee comments. It's long needed. I'm glad to see that this is before the board today.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's hope it goes to law. So that being said, I am looking for a motion to approve resolution 20-034 to support legislation to reduce the speed limit on unimproved roads. I'll take that as a motion. Now I'm looking for support.
I'll do that support.
I have support from Andrea Voorhees. Roll call vote, please.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. I will forward this on once we get it signed off to the appropriate folks, and we'll hopefully get it off to Lansing. And then I will keep all the board members informed as to when this may come to legislation, and I will also blast it, or before the legislator, and I will blast it out so that we can all make a few phone calls and maybe rattle their cages a little bit. So that would be a good thing. Item 11, new business. 11A, FOIA appeal requested by C. Opperthauser. I'm going to refer to the counselor for this.
This is an appeal from a FOIA that was submitted to the police department. The police department redacted certain information. The only appeal is one redaction where an individual's personal address is listed, and that is the location of the incident, which is the cover page of the incident report. Both MCL 15243 1A and MCL 15243 1B, Roman numeral small 3, exempt information of a personal nature if public disclosure of the information would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of an individual's privacy. Established Michigan case law states that disclosing an individual's address would clearly infringe upon the privacy interests of the person in the disclosed report. Providing an individual's personal contact information would provide no insight on FOIA's primary objective of showing how a public body operates. In addition to the statutes and case law, this appeal involves special circumstances which further support the redactions made by the police department. Specifically, Mr. Opperthauser had been advised that what was redacted was in fact an individual's address, which address is redacted elsewhere in the report, and he did not appeal that. The additional special circumstances that the board should be aware of involve a relationship between Mr. Opperthauser and the individual whose address was redacted. So in the past, in the course of the last year, there have been a number of incident reports that were filed by this individual whose address was redacted against Mr. Opperthauser. I shouldn't say against, but incident reports filed alleging some form of harassment. And Mr. Opperthauser was the person alleged that she was alleging was harassing her. In fact, she successfully obtained a personal protection order against Mr. Opperthauser, for which he had already been violated. And so I believe in addition to the statute, the case law, there are special circumstances here for this township board to affirm the redactions made by the police department.
Very good. Any questions from any of the board members at this time?
I don't know if he's here. I mean, it's his appeal, so he would have a right to address the board.
Well, first of all, is Mr. Opperthauser in the wings?
No, and there are no phone callers. There's one person named Benjamin Pohl in the waiting room who's requesting to be a video participant to the meeting, but I don't think that's him.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lilly, I saw your hand up.
I'd like to make a motion, Rick, if it's okay.
Yes, sir.
I move to affirm the police department's redaction and denial of the address listed in the location section of incident report CR 19444 dated 9/14/19 because FOIA's privacy exemption in section 13A and the established legal precedent in Michigan support redacting an individual's personal contact information.
Support.
I have motion, I have support by Liz Smith. Roll call vote, please.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
I vote yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. Item 11B, DPS request to approve a 2021 Ram ProMaster van purchase. You're going to get rid of that rusty bucket? Okay.
Yes, that's the plan.
God, that thing is, what's Jim Carrey used to drive around that van with the fur on it? You know?
Baggy dog.
Yeah. All we need to do is add some fur to that van and we're off and running, and you won't have to be a caveman anymore getting into it. Aaron, the floor is yours.
Well, if you consider the flapping Township logo on the side, that won't stick anymore. It's already got the ears, so we're halfway there. If we get enough dirt on one of these dirt roads, it might look like the van that you're talking about there. So DPS is requesting approval from the board to purchase a 2021 Ram ProMaster van to replace the 2012 GMC Savannah. In your packet, you have our cost comparisons. We looked at MSRP first, spec'd the van the way we wanted to see it. Cost comparisons went through My Deal, LaFontaine, Gulling, and Zott. Zott came in with the lowest bid, which was actually $500 above cost. So it turns out, little side story on this van, turns out the exact specification on this van that we're looking to purchase is exactly what Amazon uses. And they have purchased essentially the entire 2020 fleet and the majority of the 2021 fleet already. So there's about a 5-month lead time on delivery on this. This is budgeted in my 2021 budget. So we would like to go ahead and get a deposit into Zott now so that we can get one of these secured for our use.
Pretty nuts. When I ordered mine, it took me, I think it was 5 or 6 months by the time they got it to me. I couldn't believe it for a van, you know, but they are very popular. They're very ergonomically designed. They're real easy to work in. Some of the accessories, you got the lighting, the interior lighting package. You can perform surgery in the back of that thing with those lights. It'll be a big improvement and get a workbench. And I appreciate the fact that you got the interior liners, so it'll hold the resale value of that van up. Nothing like looking at a van like the one we have that looks like it has acne going down the road because of all the stuff on the inside of it slamming against the sides and denting it all out. So, it's interesting. Any comments from the board or any questions from the board? Mr. Lilly.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2021 Ram ProMaster cargo van from Zott at a cost not to exceed $35,000.
We have a motion. Mr. Ruggles.
Sure.
Mr. Ruggles is supporting. Motion and support for the purchase of the van. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes. Thank you for going local, Aaron.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Absolutely, yes. So motion carries. Order that van. Okay. Next item, 11C. Excuse me, it's kind of made its way back around again, is the preliminary site plan extension, or it's a site plan extension request from West Valley, number 18-027. Mr. O'Neill, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And hello again, everyone. As you may recall, the West Valley Development Project received preliminary site plan approval for 69 apartment units at the Township Board meeting that was held on, April 16th of 2019. Article 6.8 of the zoning ordinance states that preliminary site plan is valid for, approval is valid for 1 year. It does allow the Township Board to grant a 1-year extension upon recommendation by the Director of the Community Development Department. At this time, Mr. Jason Emerine, who is on the meeting on behalf of JMF White Lake LLC, is requesting an extension. I would ask that you consider this request at your meeting tonight, which you are doing. If you grant the extension, the expiration date for West Valley's preliminary site plan would then be April 16th of 2021, which equates to a 1-year extension based on the original approval date. After reviewing the attached letter from Mr. Emerine that you'll find in your packet dated September 30th, I would recommend that you approve the 1-year extension request. The applicant will be required to comply with all the ordinances in effect at the time they submit plans for final site plan approval, which is actually going to be any day now, I believe, if this is approved tonight. For your reference, I've also included the meeting minutes from your April 16th, 2019 meeting, as well as a simple site plan layout. I should also mention that this same applicant owns the Lake Point project just across the street, and there's quite a bit of synergy, both from a design and layout, an operational standpoint, as well as a utility, connectivity. Their stormwater in particular is linked to the lake. This West Valley storm system is linked to the Lake Point storm system across the street. So, I don't think their intention was ever to delay this long. I think with everything that's happened this year, in addition to the fact that they were trying to obtain ownership of both of these parcels across the street from one another, it just got to be, somewhat delayed, but we've been in constant contact with them. Their plan was always to, again, advance this and begin, I think, spring construction. So, we don't have any concerns whatsoever and would be very comfortable with an extension and would, again, request that you find in that same way. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I know Mr. Emerine and I think Mr. Fenari, who is the owner, are both here as well.
Okay, at this time, any of the board members have any questions? Mr. Lilly?
Make a motion?
Well, I guess you can if there's no other.
I have a question.
Liz Smith, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. O'Neill. My only question is, I just would, I hate to assume anything, so I just want to ask. My concerns last time with the previous developer were sidewalks. So we're going to continue that plan. Is that still moving forward, that they would be placing sidewalks in? And then we discussed a turn lane or widening the road to help the traffic on Union Lake Road. Is that still part of the same plan moving forward?
So they, in their final design, and I don't know, they haven't gotten their permit from the road commission yet, but I believe, and Mr. Emerine could probably address this as well, there is a little bit of a taper at their driveway, but I don't know, and it looks like there might be a widening of the road on the opposite side. Is that correct, Jason?
Yeah, that is correct. And we have received preliminary concept approval from the Road Commission for Oakland County. We do not have our construction permits at this time,
Sure.
But we did submit and receive approval on a geometric layout within Union Lake Road.
And to answer your question, Liz, there is a pathway that would be similar to the pathway you'd see further down where Preserved Hidden Lake is on the same side of the road, just I don't know, several hundred yards further north of where this project will terminate. And I believe there are also going to be interior sidewalks proposed for this project as well. I think it was something that was required by the Planning Commission and the board as well.
Wonderful. So we're going to continue the sidewalk plan and then some form of a turn lane or widening the road or something that we can do to assist the residents in such a heavy traffic area with quite a bit of new construction all in a close proximity.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from any of the board members? Mr. Powell?
Just a quick one, and looking at the site plan, and maybe Mr. O'Neill would help us out. Um, Carpathian Drive was required to have an XL, decel lane, and a passing lane, and a left-hand turn lane. Is there enough room? Is this project proposing a left-hand turn lane as well? It would be disastrous if somebody is blocking traffic on Union Lake Road to turn left into this development.
I believe that there'll be a passing lane on the right-hand side. So I think the through traffic lane is where they would make their left turn. And then if, in the event traffic would come up behind that vehicle, it would pass on the right. Is that correct, Jason?
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. So a right hand, or let's see, would it be a southeast bound vehicle turning right into the development? And you would have your right hand passing or your turn lane there, and then a left hand turning movement down Carpathian would then have a passing lane on the right as well. So there is not a dedicated center left turn lane, but a left hand turning movement into Carpathian Drive, there would be a bypass lane or a passing lane for a car to pass.
And the road commission is still doing their traffic study on the geometrics, correct?
The concept approval is approved. They have reviewed the concept approval, which included all the bypass lanes, the XL decel tapers, the bypass lane on the opposite side of the entrance. All that has been reviewed and approved by Rick Saporsky's office, the Subdivision Improvement Division at the Road Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Lilly, would you care to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve a 1-year extension of the West Valley's preliminary site plan through April 16, 2021.
I have a motion looking for support. I have support from Mr. Ruggles. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ruggles?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Mary Voorhees?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome to White Lake. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We are at 11D, request to approve the entrance into litigation of 9481 Highland Road. Counselor?
Well, Supervisor, you had submitted a request to the Township Board to initiate litigation because your rules of procedure require the Township Board to initiate litigation unless it's an emergency, and this really isn't an emergency. As you know, this is a business that was operating on a property in the township at 9481 Highland Road many, many moons ago. It has since expanded significantly to an extent that it did not exist in 1999 when that use was, when legal nonconforming status was afforded that use for 9481 Highland Road. It also expanded into an adjacent parcel, a 10-acre parcel. We've had neighbors complaining about the odor and the extent of the business for some time now. We've had communications with Mr. Brendel as well as the owner of the business and occupant of the property, Susan Armstrong. We've made every attempt that we can make from a staff perspective to obtain voluntary compliance, submit whatever requests that he might be wanting to submit to the Township Board. Unfortunately, all of our requests have been unsuccessful. So we sit here today having zero movement in the last year since we've started discussing these issues with Mr. Brendel and Ms. Armstrong, which is why we are at the point where we are requesting the township move forward with litigation.
Thank you. Mr. Powell, you have a question?
I do, and certainly we would like compliance with our zoning ordinance. On this particular project, this is such an old project, and I apologize, it's my memory, I'm sure. But all the language is extremely vague in this request. Violation of zoning ordinance and modification and changes from a previous plan and different than what the township had approved in the past. And I feel extremely unprepared to request and authorize litigation on this. We pay our township attorney a great deal already. And I'm wondering if the township board might be better understanding this and having the presentation tabled and brought back next month so that we can understand it better before we authorize legal action.
Okay, anyone else with a comment? Okay. I feel that we have gone the extra mile in the internal conversations, the outreach that this township office has put out to remedy this situation for well over a year, and it has gone unanswered. As one of my associates says, all we got was crickets. Okay, so it is the way to get their attention and get them going. And unfortunately, from time to time, we need to do things, or at least initiate things, to get the ball off dead center. I do not believe this is going to go anywhere. And I firmly believe that Mr. O'Neill feels the same way. And historically, there's been little or no cooperation. And I will recommend that we move forward with the filing of the litigation and put them on notice. So with that said, I'm going to make a motion that we proceed with the litigation as recommended by the township attorney.
Myself and Mr. Ruggles had our hand raised. I think Scott was first.
Okay, I beg your pardon, Mr. Ruggles.
I was just curious, has anyone notified either parties, Jay or the new owner, that this is happening, that this is on the agenda? Are they aware of this, do you know, or not?
I have not notified them that it's on the agenda, but our communications have been, we're going to have to take enforcement action if you don't comply. I mean, I know that, Sean, I don't want to step on your toes, but I know that you received a note today from an architect claiming he's going to have a plan to you.
Yes. Yeah, it was a surveyor that apparently Mr. Brendel has retained and had said that a plan would be coming next week. I guess I'll say a couple things. First, I'd agree with Rick's position that, this has been taking a long time, and it really makes it hard for the staff to do much with it. I mean, we field complaints on it, and we've got to move it ahead. And so ultimately the decision's yours. But I would also say that if action's taken to initiate litigation and they march in the door with, all this information in the next, Lisa's not going to race down to the courthouse tomorrow, I would assume. So, if in the coming days we did really feel as if there could be a resolution that would involve us coming back to the board, I would say that, it would be reasonable to do so. And I don't know what everybody else feels, because again, I don't want to drag this out, but I think the fact that, the board might take the step to authorize litigation certainly lights a fire under the property owner's position, let's say. And that may be necessary because we've been talking about this for quite some time now.
So, Mr. Powell, if we elect to table it for a month, what do you hope to learn that we haven't learned in the last year?
Well, I certainly believe that I know the surveyor as well, and he has been extremely busy. I think if a plan is submitted in the next week, that will tell us a great deal. And then, I know more about the project where we just authorized the demolition of the home than I know about this entire plan and the zoning ordinance violations for this large commercial site. I would hope that since it's up before the discussion of this board, and quite frankly, the staff has said that it's been discussed for a year. This is the first time I've heard about it in a year. So it's just brought before us now. And I'd really like to understand it better and put the applicant or the owner and the tenant on notice that it's going to be up before the board at the next meeting, and do something in the next 30 days.
Understand. Any other comment? Liz Smith.
So I kind of tend to agree somewhere in between Mr. Ruggles and Mr. Powell that I don't think it was quite fair that our resident wasn't notified that it was going to be on the agenda today, because I always love to hear directly from our residents. I think they have the right to address us and be heard. I don't want to put Mr. Hudson or Mr. O'Neill on the spot. But you are the boots on the ground. If you had anything to add, I'd also like to hear from either one of you. And if you don't feel comfortable or prepared, that's okay. Mr. O'Neill, I think, shared what he thought, but we haven't, as the board, this is the first time it's been brought to our board or any knowledge to us, this current board. So that concerns me a little bit as well. I would always like to forego litigation to any of our residents. I'd like to give our residents the most of respect possible, and of course, cost savings and litigation whenever we can. So if we table it for next, like, so for example, could we see if this plan comes through at all within a week and table it in a month? We've waited this long. A month isn't gonna really change anything at this moment, right?
Well, Lisa has her hand up. I'd like to hear what she has to say, Liz. Lisa?
I just want to point out a couple of things. I appreciate that you guys are not dealing with the residents when there's a violation and we're trying to get compliance on a day-to-day basis, but you can probably hear it in Sean's voice and in Jason's, if Jason spoke, the level of frustration and the level of promises that we were told, and we're going to submit and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and nothing ever happens. I also want to point out the fact that we never advise property owners before we come to you and ask to initiate litigation. And you rarely know of all the background until it does come to you. And it usually comes to you similar to today, which is a memo by the supervisor. True, previously they had a lot less history than this one has. But the reality is this one has been in violation of the township zoning ordinance for a long, long time. We have been working cooperatively with the occupant and Mr. Brendel. And I can't tell you the date we met with them, Sean, and I want to say it was like December of 2019 or November.
December, yeah.
Where we met with Mr. Brendel, Susan Armstrong, and explained that our hands are tied. There's nothing more we can do. We've waited and you're doing nothing. And here we are a year later, not one thing has been done, despite the promises that they were going to submit the site plan. And so I just wanted to make sure you understood that this isn't coming out of the blue. Everybody should know that this is going to be coming down the pipe at any moment. And they all know that they're in violation of the zoning ordinance. And it was a simple, all Jay had to do, and we told him, is if you really want that consent judgment entered now, go to the township board, get a site plan together and go ask them. We can't tell you what they're going to say, but if that's what you want, then do it. You can't just sit around and do nothing in violation of our ordinances. And Sean, I don't know how many times you've reached out to him about the plan that he was supposed to submit so we can get it to the township board, but he did nothing. He failed to move at all.
It's been a handful of times.
Well, let me just barge in here. All right. What is the specific violation? You don't even address it once on here. What is the specific violation?
He has expanded a legal non-conforming use. His use was lawful as it existed in 1999 on 9481 Highland Road. His use is not lawful. It's not in accordance with its current zoning for the 10-acre parcel adjacent to 9481 Highland Road. So there's really two issues. There is an expansion of a legal non-conforming use on 9481 Highland Road, and there's an illegal use, a use that is not zoned properly on the 10-acre parcel adjacent to it.
So is your request to pull it back to what was originally allowed and not expanded, or are you trying to eliminate the use altogether?
So I am going to be filing a complaint alleging the violations of the zoning ordinance. However, the township board wants it resolved going down the line, that's up to you. Okay. I wouldn't make a recommendation.
Okay, that's the first time I've heard the violation. It just says violation in the letter we have. So thank you.
I apologize.
Now this is.
I just want to clarify. I do support Mr. Hudson and Mr. O'Neill, and they know that, and I respect both of them very much. So I do support them, and they have really hard jobs, and I know it, and they hear it, and we don't. sometimes we do. I just want to say that, publicly that I respect you very much and thank you for both of you doing an outstanding job.
Okay, that being said, Mr. Ruggles, you had something to say?
Yeah, I would say that, given the circumstance, and the gravity of the situation, I mean, there's a business at stake. In lieu of tabling this situation, I would be in favor of something along the lines of sending a letter of correspondence with the new operator that indicates what our intention may be if they don't submit some plans to the township and answer Mr. O'Neill's questions and get the ball moving. But some type of correspondence of that sort.
If we authorize litigation, this allows us to have the tool that does exactly what you're saying, Mr. Ruggles, and that's exactly that. It's just that the township is approved to move into litigation, and it's time to do something or get off the pot. And it's time, and it's long time, and can't tell you the number of people that have called me that have complained. The videos that I've received of noises at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, of the whirling pumps that are transferring sewage sludge. These are the complaints that I get. These are the complaints that Jason gets, Mr. O'Neill gets, and these people are frustrated, and they think that this board, frankly, doesn't care about them at all because of the fact of lack of action. And not necessarily
That's an unfair statement, Mr. Supervisor, because we didn't know about it. So you can't say we don't care.
Excuse me, you're out of order. The history behind this has a tremendous lifetime. This is not a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year thing. There's been notices going back for a considerable period of time. There's been no attempt over the last year to even communicate properly to make things come together, or an attempt to make it happen. We've had dangerous structures that we haven't had people take an attempt in 7 months, and we've just now made a recommendation for demolition. We have somebody that's living next to noxious fumes and noise that, again, there has not been any action. We also have some potential areas in the township that could have had something else appear related to this business in an area that would have been zoned for it. So there are some things here that need to be looked into, and I believe that we need to move forward with litigation, and hopefully that'll be the catalyst that will start to get things resolved. Mr. Roman.
I just want to say I totally agree with the way you just explained it, Rick. I think this is really a catalyst. I think this will get the parties moving to get this whole situation fixed. And I think if anything, we waited too long for this, but I do support starting litigation.
I can assure you. I can assure you that I'm not going to have prepared anything in at least a couple of weeks, if not longer, based on what I have on my plate right now.
Okay, Lisa. Andrea Voorhees.
Yeah, I agree with you and Mr. Roman also. I mean, there's a long history. I'm sorry that's not everyone knew it. But I can't imagine being that resident living by that house, dealing with by that business, excuse me. I care about the residents. I mean, it's not fun that we have to do some litigation and spend some money to do it, but we need to help out those residents that deal with those weird smells. I'm fortunate and I don't have to smell it. So we need to move forward with this.
Thank you. Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah, I agree. And the pumping, obviously they're pumping on site early in the morning when they shouldn't be, and they know they shouldn't be. Can't Jason Hudson go out there and put an end to this without, tomorrow? Can't that be just stopped or not?
That was going to be my question, is what action has been taken from the ordinance officer? Recent, other than just like a meeting that happened with attorneys.
Mr. Hudson?
Well, I can tell you that I have had numerous in-person meetings along with Sean, former supervisor, Ms. Abroni, and now Supervisor Rick Kowal with Jay Brendel, and then the new occupant, Susan Armstrong, regarding the complaints. The first meeting was in 2017 with Jay. Let me preface that by the original notices of violations were sent out, I believe, in 1999 by Steve Rumpel. So this isn't a recent complaint. This is an ongoing complaint of nonconformity and expansion of the nonconformity. So there's been zero movement by Mr. Brendel to rectify the situation. If anything, he has made it worse prior to selling it to the business to Miss Armstrong. I've been out there on numerous occasions when neighbors have called regarding the smell of transfer from sewage from one truck to another, and I can tell you it's putrid. These homes on Ox Hill should not have to deal with this. So I have sent letters, notice of violation. I've had numerous meetings with Sean and Lisa regarding this, and basically this is where we're at now. We have to move forward to protect these residents from this business.
And you've given Mrs. Armstrong a notice?
I have had numerous meetings. Yes, Ms. Armstrong.
Like official notice or just a meeting, just for clarification purposes?
No, she has received letters along with Mr. Brendel and Anita Brendel, who is, I believe, also on the property. So all parties involved have given violation notices, has had in-person meetings, have been told that what they need to do, and they have failed to make any advancement towards bringing the property into compliance, which I don't know is if they can the way it says.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
If I can just add to that, Trustee Smith, I've had conversations with Susan Armstrong and their attorney, and I do not get the feeling that they want to be in violation. They want to comply. Unfortunately, if they submit an application for some sort of rezoning, the owner of the property has to be on board. And I believe that there might be some
conflict there.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah, there is no zoning district that would be appropriate. I should say there's no rezoning of this property that I guess would be consistent with a master plan that would allow for this use to continue. The only reason it ever was, I mean, it was cited there many, many years ago, and it was compliant at a point in time and to an extent. And, you know, again, that was a good number of years ago, and the extent to which they operate has grown exponentially. And, you know, they've got, I think, they've probably quadrupled their original operation, if I had to guesstimate at this point. And, you know, it just continues to grow with no regard for the current ordinance.
Okay, Mr. Roman.
I just want to reiterate to the board what Rick said. Without a catalyst, history has shown that nothing has happened with this situation. It's been 20 years, people. That's what this initiation of litigation will do. I believe it'll help get a settlement worked out. I would be surprised if this ended up in court, but I do think we need that catalyst.
Thank you. Okay. That being said, I am looking for a motion, or if anyone cares to make a motion to move forward with the litigation regarding 9481 Highland Road and authorize the attorney and the township supervisor to move forward. None
Did you
being
make the
said,
motion, Rick?
I guess I will make that. It has been made in the form of a motion. I am looking for support.
I'll support.
I have motion and support by Mr. Roman. Roll call vote, Mr. Lilly.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mike Paulo.
I believe that this is a going business, and I believe it was my understanding that it was a legal non-conforming business for the last, as long as I can remember, 20, 25 years. And I would have certainly appreciated if staff had informed this board that there was a problem with a major business in the township that you were having. And Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Hudson know that I respect them and support them every step of the way. And I was just in favor of delaying this action, and so my vote is no.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
I'm a yes.
I'm going to kind of go along with Mike Powell at this point. I think there's, with a new owner there, there's an opportunity to bring resolution. And I understand that there's a lot of things that go on behind the scene, but a lot of the board members are not kept up to date of what's going on here. I think it would have been most appropriate when the department heads become exhausted with what their functions are, that they be appeared before the board. And I think it would have been more appropriate in this case to have both Mr. Brendel and the new owner give them 30 days to appear before the township board for further consideration of this. So my vote is no.
Yes. Proceed with your litigation, Lisa. Thank you. Next item, item 11E, Mr. Roman.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Is somebody staff-wise going to notify them? I mean, if you want someone to reach out to them before I actually file the litigation, do you want to, is that something you're going to handle internally tomorrow or something?
I will have a talk with Mr. O'Neill.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Roman, item 11E, fund balance transfer request.
Okay, well, if you guys all remember, back in 2019, our general fund balance increased because as a board, we spent very wisely and put a little over $600,000 into our general fund balance. And when we approved the 2020 budget, we included transferring $500,000 of that from the general fund to the improvement revolving fund. And today I come to the board requesting that the board approve that transfer of $500,000 from the general fund to the improvement revolving fund. Does anyone have any questions?
Nope. And that was also at the recommendation of Plant Moran. So I applaud you for bringing that forward, and it's a good time to do it. It's kind of like the end of our year, and we're getting there. So this will help us move forward with the variety of projects that we have planned in the future. Was that a full-blown motion there, Michael? Are you care to make one? Or?
Yes, sir. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Okay. Looking for support? The transfer? I will support that. We have motion. We have support. Roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell?
Absolutely, yes.
Scott Ruggles?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Earl only votes yes. Mr. Kowal?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11F was brought to you regarding the agreement that is between Huron Valley School District and White Lake Township in regarding to engineering services to be performed for the Bogey Lake Water Main Extension. I understand that this may be short notice. It was very short notice to me. It just hit my desk yesterday, but it was pinging around the Huron Valley School District for a while. And unfortunately, we had to kind of give them the sense of urgency that had to light a little fire under them to get them moving, so to speak, because we have a DWRF Drinking Water Revolving Fund deadline. And there are great concerns that if this went on much longer, that they would not be able to meet that deadline for that particular loan, which is very favorable to them. I think it's like 1.18% or something like that. It's very affordable money. So that being said, I will turn this over to Lisa. Lisa?
I just want to remind the board the history with this agreement. Back in March or April, this township board approved the contract with DLZ for this work, contingent on this agreement having been negotiated with Huron Valley, so that they put money in an escrow and they'd be responsible for all of that. in April, I drafted a version of this agreement and Aaron sent it over to Huron Valley. And it wasn't until maybe September that there was ever any comments. And literally we have gone back and forth at least 24 times with changes to the agreement. The agreement that's in front of you is going to change once again, very slightly. And that is to add DLZ as signatories to that agreement, because there are insurance and liability protections for Huron Valley from DLZ in there, as opposed to amending the contract the township had with DLZ. We did it that way. So all that we're going to do is add DLZ to the heading and as a signatory to that agreement. And the rest, I will defer to Aaron and Mike to talk about the specifics of the agreement. I just wanted to give you a little bit of that background.
Okay, and Aaron, if you want to add anything to this, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'd like to add, Lisa's correct. This part of, so a little bit more on the back history on this. The school district approached us in December of 2018 about possibly doing a DWRF project plan to extend township water to the Bogey Lake Lakeland campus. Project plan was paid for by the school. Completed in May 2019. The plan included two parts: extension of water main from the township system along M59 down Bogey Lake Road, approximately 2.25 miles, to supply water to their campus. And then in addition to that, part two was to add iron filtration to our Aspen Meadows well house, so that we could provide them better quality of water than what they currently have. So this board approved a DLZ agreement for engineering services, which was outlined on page 51 of the project plan. That was approved on 3/31/20. And that was going to be contingent on the township attorney working with the school board to draft an agreement for identifying what those funds were going to be used for, so that they could pay that money into an escrow with the township to be used to pay that engineering service. Now, their alternate plan was they could have used their own engineer. They didn't want to do that, which we agree. I think the best way for us to move forward here was to use our engineer. But regardless, they had the option of going another route. So we had this discussion back at the 3/31 meeting. And so here we are. We've basically, in the last essentially 7 months, been trying to get some movement from the school on this. And really what kind of prompted it recently was Dr. Salah. You know, we've reached out to Dr. Salah. We're not getting any movement on it. We're really kind of quickly running out of time on this, to the point where, you know, if we didn't move something here in the next few weeks and get this engineering done, and we've got to survey 2.25 miles of road right away, do the design, the hydraulic analysis, you know, design the meter pit, all this. We likely, if this goes much farther, are not going to meet the, you know, the milestone schedule for funding in, you know, the fall of 2021. So thankfully now in the last 2 weeks, we've gone through, as Lisa said, 20 iterations of this. We've come to something that we can all agree to. And so here we are with the agreement in front of you. Again, this is an agreement for use of an escrow to pay for engineering services that this board has already approved as part of the project plan that was done, you know, back in May 2009, completed back in May 2019. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Mike. Would you like to add anything, Mike?
I think you guys covered it pretty good. Certainly want to be here for any questions that the board has, if anybody's got anything.
At this time, are there any questions by members of the board? This is again, the engineering plan to design the water main that will go from, we'll call it up at 59 and Bogey Lake Road and service the Lakeland campus. And that's something that when I first became supervisor, I had a entourage that we went over and talked to the school, and there was a different leadership there, and they were not as receptive to this. Matter of fact, it was very disappointing how little they were receptive. But once Mr. Paul Salah came in, he put it together real quickly, the need, and was very essential in helping us put this together so that we can provide them good quality water for their students. Mr. Powell.
I'm very impressed with this project, and I think it's a win-win for both the school system and the township. I have an underlying concern that after we agreed to extend a sanitary sewer and we signed all the agreements, and when it came time to pay the funds to the township, the school system decided that, oh, we now don't agree with the agreement. And so I'm a little bit gun shy of an agreement like this with the school system. And I guess I have a question under section L, paragraph L1, or under the first one under now, therefore. It requires that the school system deposit money in an escrow. Is there any monies deposited in escrow at all from the school system?
No,
Not until this agreement is signed.
this agreement is for that escrow.
Okay. Okay, but it's obviously taken a long time this should have been put in an escrow months ago, but all right. So at what point do we not proceed with the project if the escrow funds aren't put into the escrow?
If I may,
Yes,
I was going to suggest any motion that's made to authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement be made contingent upon receipt of the escrow funds, as well as a resolution authorizing Mr. Van Gotham to sign on behalf of Huron Valley, as well as, understanding that this is going to be amended also to add DLZ to the contract. So there are three things that remain outstanding. One is adding DLZ to the contract. One is receipt of the escrow funds, and one is the confirmation or a resolution or meeting minutes authorizing Jeffrey Van Gotham to sign on behalf of Huron Valley, which he's already signed this agreement.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Real quick, wouldn't their board have to approve Jeff Van Gotham to sign?
They did. We're just waiting. We're waiting for the minutes.
But we also have to?
We have to approve the agreement.
You have to authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement.
Okay, I thought you wanted our board to approve Jeff Van Gotham to sign.
No.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, that would be one of the conditions that have to be met before Rick signs.
Gotcha. Yep.
I might have misspoke. If I did, I'm sorry.
Any other question? Mr. Potter?
Yeah, so I'd like Mike to weigh in on the timeline, because that is the real concern here. We have been sending emails to the school now for, like I said, months to compel them to hurry up and move this forward. Again, this entire project was brought to the township at the request of the school back in 2018. I agree with Mr. Powell. This agreement is just for the escrow that we're going to use to pay for the engineering services. Ultimately, we'll have to have some form of an agreement to partner with the school on a DWRF loan that's going to be part of this going forward. We've already identified that as part of this project going forward. But, Mike's firm is going to be doing the engineering. I think I'd like to hear directly from them I'm not comfortable fast tracking engineering on anything.
I can weigh in on that a little bit, Aaron. You looked at the original proposal, it's dated back in March of this year. So, we certainly wanted to be underway with that by now. preliminary plans, I'll say 70% plans are due to Eagle for review in February, and permit sets are due in April. Certainly we'll have a little bit of time after that for some final changes and procuring other permits and those type of things. But I mean, we're fast approaching a date where I need to be out with boots on the ground. And literally, if we can get that escrow in there, I'll be out that week to start confirming the topo, just to try to get this thing moving. So we've been trying to, work with everybody, but we are getting our backs against the wall on this one from a timeline standpoint. So and that's why, we certainly appreciate getting that on the agenda for tonight to try to help move this along. So
I think, for me, and certainly something that we'd want to extend out to the school is, some kind of a date. Are we talking a week, 2 weeks, 2 months? I mean, obviously we've got 2.25 miles of, like I said, road right away to survey. We've got to do all the discovery to find out what else is in that road right away. All the engineering as far as structures, construction methods, all of the
we've got geotechnical investigation,
geotechnical soil boring, water, dewatering analysis, hydraulic analysis. There is certainly a lot of work to do here. I really don't want to be in a position where our back is against the wall to meet this milestone schedule when we have taken $200,000+ from the school. It's well documented that we've asked them to hurry up on this and get this stuff going. But I think we'd
the best, Aaron, I don't mean to interject, but the one that's going to be the only one that can tell us what that can really be done is Mike. Mike knows the schedule and what the capabilities are of DLC. And if they have a deadline that they have to meet, can they bring this in that timeline? Now, the conversations that I've had is that we are at that point where we need to make a commitment so it can be done at that timeline. Mike?
Yeah. The other part of this, and this is further discussion with the school board, but this is exploring one opportunity for them for funding. If they miss the window for the DWRF, it's not game over for them. It's just we missed that funding opportunity. But I mean, I know they have other abilities based on millages that I think have passed, and I just wanted to bring that up. So it's not like it's a dead deal, but I mean, we certainly, if we're going to hit this DWRF deadline, 30 days is probably that's where I'm at with that.
So we need to get them off dead center right now and get things moving. Now, I will tell you one moment, Mr. Powell, that since I've built a relationship with Mr. Salah, the superintendent, have you or have you not received things expeditiously? Yes, no? Okay. All right. So I believe that we will see them be cooperative in their endeavor because it does benefit them. And one of the things that they did is when they did their bond issue, they did put it out there that they were going to hook up to the water. That was one of the things they told parents. I had a lot of parents ask me. There were parents that thought they were on the township water. I would have people call me and say, how come the water's from the township so bad at the school? And I would have to get into a long dissertation about how it's not our water. Okay. So it's in their best interest to move forward. If we move forward tonight, we will make sure that, they have everything they need to us within I would say within no less than 2 weeks. They'll have to get us what we need in order to move forward. Would you be agreeable to that, Mike? Does that give you enough cushion?
Certainly.
2 weeks or less? Okay. So let's put a timeline on them to get them to move forward. Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I have a question that maybe Aaron could answer. Is this particular agreement tied really closely to our DWF requested loan for our iron removal plant? And if the school system for some reason drags their feet, can we still apply for the DWRF loan for our iron removal plant?
We can. They were included together in the project plan originally. Now, the board approved the engineering for the iron filtration portion at a previous meeting. I don't have the date right in front of me. So that is underway currently. We just concluded the pilot study, which is actually an FYI on the agenda tonight. So we've had our kickoff meeting and the survey work has already been started for the offsite sanitary that was going to be required. Part of that, they've gone over and done all the interior measurements as far as I'm aware. And so, yeah, and regardless of whether the school decides to go forward with DWRF at this point, we know, as Rick said, they put it in their bond that they wanted to have this water main extension, take place. They do have alternate funding. We do not. So we're going to want to meet this milestone schedule for our portion of this project regardless.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they can act completely separate. They're not tied to each other necessarily, other than that they were prepared in the same project plan.
Okay.
I will say that I think that it's critical that both of these portions of the project go forward. If we don't add iron filtration to Aspen Meadows, not only, our water is likely going to be exactly what they have on their site now, untreated, non-filtered water that, it won't even be fresh. At least with their site, it's pumped right there. We're going to pump it 2.25 miles to get to them. So, in all likelihood, that water quality could be worse than what they have on their site. Now, with with our portion of the project, I think that it benefits the school and it benefits the rest of the township as well.
I think it's one of those things that could work both ways, like you said, Mike, Mr. Powell. Mr. Roman.
Got to make sure I'm not on mute, and I'm not. Hey, Lisa, I did read the agreement. I do not have it with me now, but I just wanted to make sure that this agreement it doesn't tie the township up into guaranteeing that we're going to get them DWRF approval. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's nothing in here about funding at all.
Okay.
This is strictly
engineering,
holding money in escrow for the completion of phase 1 only.
Okay.
There is, I've added a provision in here as well that says, if this were to go to the next phase of construction, then there will be another agreement that might be required with a new escrow to be posted.
Yep. Great. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay. Any other questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to move forward, or I have one I can make. I will make it then. Authorize the supervisor to move forward with the agreement and with the receipt of escrow and subject to documents, the resolution from the Huron Valley School Board allowing Jeffrey Van Gotham to sign on his behalf and adding DLC as a signature on the agreement. As my motion, looking for support.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes.
are we going to add a date into that motion?
I can say that this should be resolved within 14 days, but it doesn't have to be, because if we don't receive the money, the motion, it just dies without meeting funding. That's all. So we're not going anywhere. There'll be no spent. There's no money spent until we get the money. So I have motion.
I understand. We just talked about dates. I didn't know if you forgot
regret-
as you were making your motion, or, I understand that. I understand the process.
Right. I understand that, Liz, but I don't feel comfortable putting that in this motion. I intend to work with them and build the relationship that I have been working on. So I have motion. I have support from Mr. Powell. Looking for a roll call vote.
Do we have voice?
Andrea?
Oh, yes, I wasn't sure what he said. Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Mike Powell?
Yes.
Scott Ruggles?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Kowal?
Yes. Thank you, board members, and I will make sure that you know what's going on. If we have any issues whatsoever with it, I'll make sure you're all in the light of what is going on or not. It's in the best interest of the school to move forward, so I think it's a good thing. Old business, Aspen Meadows Iron Filtration Pilot Study Update. We touched on that just a tiny bit. Aaron, please enlighten us.
Yes, so far ago that I don't even remember when, this board approved a pilot study for iron filtration at Aspen Meadows. We included this in our project plan, which we just discussed. So we originally were trying to work with Suez. It's the company that manufactures the process. The process is called Ferrazur. It's a biological iron removal process that essentially grows naturally occurring groundwater bacteria that, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially eats part of the iron matrix as a nutrient. So this bacteria, there's two species, Leptothrix and Gallionella. They're found in almost all water wells in Michigan. And this process grows that culture by the addition of dissolved oxygen. And so we had 3 of these plants over in Waterford Township. Independence Township has at least one that I know of. You know, and we had great luck with those plants over there. And I was involved in, you know, the pilot projects over there as far back as 2006. So we weren't able to get the Suez pilot. They just weren't available. They only have a couple of them. So we waited and waited and waited. Finally, our local representative for Suez with this process, who is HESCO Engineering, agreed to take over this pilot responsibility. They built us a brand new pilot. And because we were kind of guinea pigging the new pilot process that it was fully automated, and it had its own SCADA system, it fully automated backwash system, really top notch. But anyway, like I said, it was new, so we had to work out quite a few bugs. Long story short, we had this thing for the entire summer. We were able to pilot months and months. So what you have in front of you here are the first, let's say, 14 pages of a 500-page report that we actually had that showed every single data point that we collected for the entire summer. We were collecting data points every couple seconds. So generally, the pilot was a huge success. We tested it at all kinds of different flow rates. You know, the Aspen Meadows plant can run as little as, you know, it can be programmed to run as little as 500 gallons a minute. There's 2 wells there that both have 1,000 gallon per minute capacity. There are peak demand times during the summertime where we're going to run both wells at 1,000 gallons per minute at the same time. So this process had to accommodate a large range of flow rates, and we wanted to still see consistent results. Now, through the process, we were able to, you know, consistently prove that at basically all flow ranges, we were getting, you know, results for finished iron as low as, you know, 0.01 milligrams per liter. That is so low that we had to get a spectrophotometer over there to even measure that. You couldn't even detect that iron on a field kit anymore. So we tested it at, you know, 3 different flow rates for pretty extended periods of time to determine length of a filter run, how long it took us, how many hours of run time we could get before we achieved the, you know, the desired head loss or the designed head loss. And then we went back after going upwards of 20 gallons per minute per square foot, which is an extreme high flow for a filter design. Then we went back to the slowest flow rate that we tested originally to see how it would respond, and it still responded excellent. As a matter of fact, when we went back after the seeding process to the original flow rate, we got over 400 hours of runtime on a filter run. So extremely efficient. Efficiency so that is going to allow less backwash waste. We pay sanitary charges based on that backwash waste. So less sanitary charges. High flow rate will allow a smaller footprint for the filter, smaller filter itself. It's a post-chlorinated, because we're growing bacteria, it's essentially not even a filter, it's actually a bioreactor. The way that our Village Acres plant, for example, is pre-chlorinated. Chlorine actually oxidizes the iron, which is then filtered out in a physical chemical process. This being a biological process, we definitely are not going to add chlorine pre-filter. So it's post-chlorinated. We'll use less chemicals. It's just a very green-friendly design and process. Locally, it's well established to work in this area, and our pilot here is, in my mind, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's going to work well for us.
I do this during school.
Thanks. That's a lot of information. Mr. Lufkin, do you have anything you want to add to that? Just a little bit, maybe, just a small amount.
I could dork out about it all night, but Aaron covered it pretty good. The key takeaways are it's a very efficient process from a footprint standpoint, because you can get a lot of flow through a given square foot area. And the chemical efficiencies are nice because you're not pre-chlorinating and losing a lot of that chlorine to the oxidization process. So those are the key takeaways for me.
Yeah. Where were you, Aaron, when we were planning the Village Acres plant?
Yeah.
It's wasting my time over in Waterford.
Yeah. Well, let's not go backwards. We're going forward. Any other questions from any of the board members or anything on this? Okay, that being said, thanks for the FYI. I appreciate that. And, on the update, now we're going to take and move over to the Pinecrest Sewer Project. And Aaron, I'm going to let you run with that one too.
Yeah, Pinecrest Sewer Project's finally showing some movement. We had gone out to bids, received back some bids on that project, and the bids were very favorable. So we are, unfortunately, still haven't received our permit from Eagle. They've had it for 50 days. Mike and I had a conference Zoom call with Dennis Ryan at Eagle today to try to nail down some of his concerns or details there. To me, it looked like an extremely straightforward project that was just a branch that had been identified as ultimate service area in our Western District back in, I think, 2003. Don't quote me on that one, but I wasn't expecting a long review on this, and I'm frankly dumbfounded by it. So we really can't move to the next step until we get this permit in hand to find out if we need to issue any addendums or, if there's going to be any major changes or anything required. I'm still not anticipating that. We did receive 4 bids on the project. 2 of those bids were very close to what Mike estimated about a year ago now. And one of them was quite a bit lower. So we're pretty confident that this SAD has a very solid chance of going forward. And our intention is to get this permit in hand. And, we're going to work with Janine directly on advertising for the public hearing and working with the bond attorney. And our hope is to bring this forward to you at potentially a special meeting before the November meeting. So we think that we're going to be able to move forward pretty quickly with this project.
Yeah, and Aaron, I will entertain that, and I know the board will go along with it. Special meeting to move this project forward will be a very good thing. And these people have waited some considerable amount of time, and I know that you got very, very frustrated with this process because of all the obstacles that it kind of came into play. And I want to commend you for sticking with it and doing a good job. And I know some of the neighbors over there were a little wound up, but when they were at the bid opening, I think they felt much better. So I certainly appreciate all your efforts.
I felt much better. That was the first one that we opened since the COVID. It was also the first one that we opened since we've amended a standard detail. And we've been, a little bit about that. We've amended a standard detail with what we think was going to be a less expensive construction method. Going through the bids, it was less expensive for some bidders, but maybe more expensive for other bidders. So, but overall, it seemed like it came out pretty favorable for the residents over there. I'm looking forward to moving forward this project.
Really the best thing. And I have received calls from the other side, the west side of Sugden Lake, about people wanting to know how to get something going over there. So we'll see how this builds interest in that particular area.
Maybe we should start a permit now.
Yeah, no kidding. Any quick questions from the board members or anything?
Yeah,
Yes, Andrew.
Thank you for the FYI, because I had a couple of residents reach out to me also that were on Sugden Lake also. 50 days, that's not normal, I'm assuming, Aaron, for the permit process?
No, a sanitary permit for something of this size typically would take about 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that's just the sign of the times, unfortunately, I think.
No, that was the question I was going to ask, so thank you.
A lot of that going on. Okay, that being said, I'm going to move, thank you for that update also. I'm going to move into trustee comments.
Mr. Cole, can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. I have a question. It's not pertaining to this agenda item. It's a little off topic.
Well, we're going to trustee comments, but if you want to ask them, that's fine, or whatever
wait.
you want to do.
I can wait.
You can wait? Okay. So let's go into trustee comments. And Mr. Ruggles, we'll start with you.
Okay. So moving forward, the November meeting, what takes place at the November meeting? We're going to be virtual, and so that's when there's going to be a transition, correct? Swearing in.
No, the November meeting is actually on the 17th. We may be sworn in that day. I'm not sure. We're still making arrangements with the district judge, but we technically don't take office until noon on the 20th.
Noon on the 20th.
Okay. Correct. Okay. Am I correct there, Mr. Lilly?
That's correct, Rick.
I wasn't sure if, I should spend the next 20 minutes talking to Terry or not, but I'll let that go for a month. So trustee comments, planning commission meeting on October 15th was canceled. Our next meeting will be on November 5th. I did take the Stanley Park public input survey online. And out of curiosity, who came up with the questions? Was that internal, or was that somebody outside of the township?
That was part of the consultant, and I think Sean and Jason had they had Justin rather. I always get Jason in the brain. Had a little bit to do with it, but it's
primarily developed by Backend Raider. Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure. And I don't really have a whole lot to add besides I'm looking forward to the results of that. And I'd like to remind everybody to get out and vote November 3rd. I know I'll be there here at the town hall voting. So look forward to seeing everybody, and see you next month.
You may be only one of 5 people based on the number of absentee ballots that we have gone out here.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Pretty crazy. So we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Andrea Voorhees.
Thank you. As your Parks and Rec liaison, we've been really busy. We had a tour of Stanley Park, and our newest members, in a sense, our visiting session members of Liz, Fessler Smith and Mike Powell were there, and we had a nice visit or tour of the Stanley Park, including the computer that was in the burn pit still. No, it's a gorgeous park, great asset for White Lake Township. And then on the 14th, we had the visiting session at Holly Park. It was like an hour and a half. Everyone did this right thing by social distancing, wearing masks. We had 50 to 75 people approximately in that timeline that were out there. And I just wandered around and kind of listened to what everyone was saying and some of the ideas that the people that were there with One on Future. One of the ones I remember seeing a lot was a dog park. That was a pretty high number. And then I'm going to start off or finish off the evening with my historical tidbit. And one of the latest farms to be converted to a summer resort use is that of Eli Brendel, with its long frontage and grove on Long Lake in White Lake Township. The piece has been divided into 216 lots facing on Edgewood Center and Hillside Streets. The subdivision that subdivision is now known as Brendel Heights. The part of the farm lying on the north side of the road will be sold in 5-acre parcels. The property has the advantage of being in one of the new country roads and without doubt will be built up with many years, with summer homes as many and lakeside homes in the vicinity. This is from 1920. And as always, I'll finish off with be safe, be healthy, and go vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Roman.
Mike, you're muted.
Is that better?
Better.
Well, Andrea, since you brought it up, I also love the idea of a dog park. There's so many pet owners in White Lake Township that don't have an opportunity to run their dogs leash free. What I like about Stanley Park is that it's centrally located and that we could potentially use grant money rather than Parks and Rec millage to do it. I just think the grant money is a better idea. Just because a lot of us that don't have dogs don't want our millage money going towards a dog park. I'll get off that topic. Mainly what I wanted to say today is I wanted to thank all of you, all of my fellow board members, for all the wise thoughts, concerns, and comments that you all bring up every board meeting. We are not supposed to all agree on all board issues. And so it is very natural that we have split votes as we did today. As our board will change soon, one thing that I would ask from all of you is to let's continue to disagree in a respectful manner. There is no reason for personal attacks by board members on other board members. Although we might disagree on issues, everyone on this board wants what's best for White Lake Township as a whole. So with that, Terry, I'll just say real quick, it's been a pleasure working with you for all these years, and you will be missed.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Mr. Lilly.
Thanks, Rick. I'd like to just take a moment to thank my staff for the amount of work that this election has taken from them. I know my screen was muted for a while and probably seen me rubbing my eyes, but our staff has been working 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock every night processing ballots and try to keep up with those. So to all of those people that are working in our office, I want to thank them. Starting the 26th, we're going to see Mr. Noble, your new clerk. Anthony and I are going to be working together to give him some experience of an election. So he'll be working with me the whole work of the 20, working with me the whole work week of the 26th, all the way through election. So I hope, it's for him. I know we've had several conversations, both friendly and very amicable. So we're on the right path to making a smooth transition, whatever, and try to offer Anthony whatever experience I can in the next couple of weeks. So everything's going pretty good.
Very good. Thank you. Next, before you speak, Liz, what I'd like to do is I would like to thank Liz Smith and Mike Powell both for stepping up and becoming members of the Stanley Park Master Planning Committee. It was very important to me that the board have a presence on that committee so that they have an understanding of what the commitment will be to the community and from the board back to the community. So it's good to have the people that have a passion about what they do. And I welcome both of you on board. And Liz, please do your
Thank you,
comment.
Mr. Supervisor. That was very kind of you. I appreciate those kind words so much. Thank you. And I'm very much looking forward to working with Mr. Powell and the Parks and Rec Committee and our residents. So thank you. Appreciate that. Terry, I'm going to reserve my comments for next month because you're still part of us for next month. And but I do want to thank you for your honorable and smooth transition that you're participating in. Thank you. I would hope that any time that we welcome a new board member that it would be done in such a manner. So thank you for that. So my library board update is library is open in stage 3. And they recently received a $5,000 grant that they are now providing wireless service in the parking lot. So if any resident is without internet or computer or, so much homeschooling, that will be available in the parking lot of the library and on their patio area. So I think that's a great addition to our community if you need it. And that's available all hours. I had so much fun to welcome the fireman that was walking 140 miles this past month. It was so much fun to cheer him on, and our family did donate to his cause that he was raising awareness for fireman cancer awareness. That was really fun, and I have some pictures up if anyone would like to see it. And he does this every year, so I encourage you to join in on that next year when he does it. It was very moving, and I was very honored to welcome him to White Lake along with our fire department at Station 1. As many of you know, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I want to thank my colleagues and our department heads for joining me in wearing pink to raise awareness. Some of you know, last September, I came directly to a board meeting from a funeral of a very dear friend of mine that was lost due to complications of breast cancer. So it does affect everybody, men, women, and pets. And interestingly enough, my dog is a breast cancer survivor. So this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. So thank you for wearing pink and raising awareness with me. I want to also let you know that it is Hippo Awareness Month. And we have a really unique local organization in White Lake. It is Pitbull Education Project. And I just want to give them a shout out. They do incredible work, not only for pit bulls, but they are out there trying to save other dogs that are living outside and providing food and shelter and warmth. And I do have my pit bull bracelet on. And you can buy t-shirts for them to support feeding animals and vet bills, and you can donate to them. You can give your Amazon points or Kroger points, and they're right here in White Lake, and they are spreading love to dogs all over. And I just want to give them a shout out. If you're not aware of them, they are a local organization right here doing a wonderful job trying to save dogs. I want to clarify that, I don't know if Mr. Supervisor spoke, but at our last meeting, it was kind of just thrown out there that Halloween was canceled. White Lake Township has not canceled Halloween, and I want to clarify that. I want to make sure, you know, you do what's best for your family and what you feel comfortable and safe. I don't know where that came from, but I just want to clarify it, that is not officially canceled in White Lake. And you do, you know, each to your own, you do what is best and comfortable for your family on Halloween, and be happy and safe as you celebrate. It was so much fun, the tour of Stanley Park. I enjoyed that so much with some of the members from Parks and Rec and Trustee Voorhees and Trustee Powell. It is gorgeous. White Lake, we are so incredibly blessed and fortunate. This is very exciting. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I know there's a ton of questions on it, and we are in the very beginning stages of planning. So bear with us and be patient. You know, there's a lot of questions on funding and what's going to happen, and is there going to be a dog park? I hear dog park a lot too. So just be patient with us, that we want to do this right, and we want to have careful and thoughtful planning. And one of the ways that you can involve yourself is take the survey. Thank you, Trustee Ruggles. It's up on the Facebook all over Parks and Rec. It's on my Facebook. I shared it on White Lake Happenings. So I encourage you to take the survey. It just gives us somewhere to start of what you desire and what you hope to have there. And then lastly, lastly, I would like to remind you to get out the vote. And that is obviously November 3rd. The clerk's department has special election hours, Saturday, October 31st from 8 to 4 p.m. If you need to come in for any reason to register to vote in person, pick up an absentee ballot, drop off your absentee ballot. The election ballot box is available 24 hours outside. It's white, it's clearly marked. Yesterday was the last day to register to vote online, but you can come in still and register to vote up until 8 p.m. on election day. So I'm really encouraging you to get out the vote, and I will see you at the polls. I'm excited, and I'm very much looking forward to working with my three trustee colleagues as we move forward. So thank you, White Lake, and thank you again to our first responders. God bless our fire and police, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Powell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Appreciate it. First of all, I want to thank you for appointing me to the Park Committee. Parks and pathways are near and dear to my heart. I'm soon going to have 9 grandchildren, and I just love doing things outdoors with them. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Gives you another place to eat ice cream.
Yeah, and it's another reason to eat ice cream. Exactly right. As a matter of fact, I have so many, I almost want to rent out the AMC theater, you know, and just take my whole family in and for $99 see a movie. So, but I did want to point out that we had 6 items on the ZBA agenda last Thursday. So that meeting went until 10 o'clock, 10:30, I believe, and it even started early. So it was a very long meeting. One of the big items that I think I'm going to suggest that we work with the planning department is kind of an outdated issue in the zoning ordinance is that homes cannot be improved by more than 50% of their assessed value of the structure. And with the higher rates of building costs, really an awful lot of people that want to add on or make additions to their homes or improve their homes it exceeds that amount. So we're having to add a great deal of variances just to allow people to improve their homes. And so that might be an area that we can look at to modify. I had a question, and maybe Terry or Mr. Kowal might know the answer to this. I'd like to know where the name Stanley Park came from.
Stanley Park came from Mr. Stanley Pollock, and Mrs. Pollock requested that be the name of the park, and she wouldn't sell it to us unless we did.
No, and I appreciate that.
And I wasn't going to argue with a 90-some-year-old woman who was right on top of her game, let me tell you. So
Well, I came home and told my wife that. She says, "Who the heck is Stanley?" So now I can tell her. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Yeah.
And I want to thank the staff of White Lake Township. The budget process is not very exciting, but boy, the township employees just really step up their game for the budget. Makes our lives a lot easier to where we don't have to go in and check math and do all kinds of things that we used to have to do. The clerk's office is stepping up above and beyond the call of duty for elections. And we just have professionals in every single department. And I just want to personally thank them. And I know all of my colleagues on the board do as well. They just deserve our thanks and gratitude. And I'm going to also save my comments, maybe even person to Clerk Lily. I quite frankly, and Terry knows this, that I have known their family all my life. And so I used to go to his house when I was a little kid and used to enjoy myself over there. And I'm sorry, Terry, I was a little kid when I used to come over to your house. Sorry about that. But you are going to be sorely missed, and your legacy and your knowledge is hopefully we claim that for many years to come, like we do Carol. So thank you for your service to the township.
Thanks, Mike.
very good. Well, okay. Well, first of all, Stanley Park, the Triangle Trail, Civic Center area, they're all changes. And we've seen many, some good, some not so good. It's our responsibility to be the guardians of those changes. And this board, I think, takes it very serious. And it's nice to know that there's folks that are committed to try to make sure that we do the right thing so that when we are no longer here, we leave it better than we found it instead of creating problems. One of the very interesting things that I found out here is that before we became a more organized and more, I'll say, sophisticated in the sense that there's more going on with engineering, there's more going on with planning, there's more going on with how the township operates in the last 20 years than prior to its formation and existence, that, everybody is very precise on trying to do their job and do everything the right possible way. Even down to, painting things the same color so we save paint. All kinds of little things are done that are behind the scenes that most people don't even realize. Recently did a color scheme on the pavilion, and we power washed the ceiling and it made it look great. And then
so good.
So much better. And then the brown was like, oh, well, we'll paint the same color that we painted the post for the park's play area. So, these kind of things, little tiny things, it may not seem like a lot, but it's just that the mind is going and working and it's trying to make it a better place all the way around White Lake to live for everyone. The HR office is coming along nicely. I managed to pull some square footage out of thin air. I have no idea how I did it. I had a moment here after a meeting one evening, and Sean signed off on it, so it must be okay. And Nick gave me a permit, so that's all that matters. Yeah. Ron's IGA on Round Lake Road is now in its last light. Hopefully the soil erosion permit has been applied for. I believe there's an insurance requirement that has to be met, and I'm hoping that the permit will be issued here shortly. So that'll be another change in the community. So, as we change, we need to, just be very mindful of each other. And I'm asking the board that when we get together with our new clerk, that we be mindful and greet him with a smile and consideration, because he isn't and hasn't been in our day-to-day operations and doesn't understand totally how we do what we do yet, but he will. And Anthony will be a big asset to the community, and he's waiting to get going. He's chomping at the bit. He's very excited. And I'm sure that it'll be a very, very productive next 4 years. And I look forward to working with Mr. Noble. And with that, I'll say, next month will be kind of a sweet sorrow. Terry, you know, like today, we were trying to do something. Terry had the answer right then and there. And Mike and I just looked at each other and go, boy, we're in trouble. So it was.
Hold on, I'm still calling him.
It was a comical moment. So with that, I say I certainly appreciate it. So with that, good night. God bless White Lake. And I call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Andrea, support by Liz Smith. All in favor, we'll just do raise of hands. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
care.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
Good night, guys.
To you.
Thank you, everyone.